Hey y'all, I just wanted to share a little bit more about myself so that you guys who don't know me as well could get to know me a little bit better. My name is Alicia Myers, and I grew up in a home where God and ministry were important parts of our everyday life. I made a decision to follow God at a young age. Camp was a big part of my life growing up, and I decided to go to college to pursue camping ministry. I always had a passion to follow God and serve Him in whatever way that I could. I wasn't ever too much into that normal 9 to 5 job thing. I went to a small Bible college where I thought that I would become so much closer to God and that it would be this huge life changing thing, but it ended up being quite the opposite. I started to question if God was real and if it was really worth it to follow Him. The summer after my freshman year of college, I came out to Oregon to be an adventure guide. And that summer, God really showed up in my life. I saw that He was real and worth living for and giving everything to serve Him. As I went back to college, my mental health started going downhill, or at least this is the point in my life where I started to notice it more. As I went throughout my college years, I kept going into a darker hole. It got to the point where I had set a date to end my life. The date that I had set came, and I woke up and I was like, well, I guess I can make it one more day. And so I kept going like that for a very long time. I struggled with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts from then on. I downplayed my need for help and felt so much shame in admitting it to anyone. I didn't want people to worry about me or view me differently. I had always been told that you just choose joy and have more faith and you'll be okay. So I thought it was all on me for all those years. I didn't want to appear that as the not perfect Christian, so I kept it hidden. In the spring of 2019, I was really struggling to keep going. And then my grandma died. My grandma was one of the people that kept me living even though she didn't know it. After that, I really started to go downhill, and I had started making plans again to end my life. I had planned on working that summer as an adventure guide, and then after that, I didn't plan on living through the fall. The only reason that I am here today is because of God keeping me going. I made it all the way to November of 2019, and then I finally broke down and got help. I was so tired of my life being consumed by darkness and plans to end my life. And so it was either get help or end my life because I couldn't go on living like that any longer. I chose to get help. I started seeing a therapist and I got on medication. I started to really work on my relationship with God and work on my relationship with myself. And as time went on, I started to find joy, peace, and hope in my life again. Though my mental health continues to be an ongoing struggle in my life, I am in a much better place overall. I am able to share about it and not be ashamed that this is my story and that this is what I've experienced. I hope to be able to help others who have been struggling with this same struggle that I have and maybe haven't been able to talk about it just with someone else before. I continue to grow in my relationship with God, and am excited to work with the women of First Baptist to see how we can all grow together. Thank you for listening, and I hope to get to know you better soon.
I was born in 1953 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the seventh child in a conservative Mennonite pastor's family. That position and that setting has made me the weird and wonderful person I am today. Take my word for that. My father died suddenly when I was 18 months old, which of course changed everything. Deep grief and depression took my mother away also, and as I grew up in the awkward place of being the preacher's kid, but not really the preacher's kid, the struggle was very real. I was a closet rebel, and I wanted out and away. I left home and the church as soon as I could. All the rules that had governed my life, how I dressed, how I did my hair, the acceptable activities I could participate in, were all gone, And what took their place was nothing except conviction. Heavy conviction. Conviction because even though I left, the Holy Spirit never left me. I was convinced that to be right with God, I needed to embrace the lifestyle that I had rejected. A friend recognized my struggle and sat me down and explained what the grace of God should mean in my life. She also made it her personal mission to convince me to head all the way out to Oregon to attend Ecoloho Bible School in Cannon Beach. There, my walk with God was renewed and became once again the foundation of my life. I stayed in Oregon because I met and married another closet rebel that wandered into the hallowed halls of Ecoloho. Tom grew up in Aloha, Oregon, and we lived there for the first 20 years of our marriage. 3 children were born there, and it was a wonderful life. God gave me a mother and a father that I loved in my new family. Moving to Prineville greatly disturbed my equilibrium. The move and the reason for it is another long story that I could tell you over a cup of coffee if you want to hear it. What I will say is that because of obedience, God has given me a community that I love, faithful friends, and fruit in the next generation that will remain. I don't have a life verse that epitomizes my story, but I have many that speak wonderful truth and comfort to my soul. It's important to remember what we were without Christ. And to end my story, I'd like to read Lamentations 3:19 through 26, because this epitomizes what I believe the word means to me and what my relationship with God means. I remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul that seeks him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Thanks for listening. I'd love to get to know you better too.
Hi ladies, I'm Kayla Tomlinson, and this is Cora, and she's going to be part of my video, I think, because she's just kind of hanging out with me today. So, I just wanted to give you a short little bio of myself to get to know me better. I grew up in Eastern Washington and was homeschooled from, I think, 2nd grade on through. Just loved my childhood, had awesome parents that homeschooled me, and then also just really raised me to love Jesus. So I'm super thankful for them and their influence in my life. And then after graduating, I went to Simpson University down in Redding, California. And that's where I met this guy named Eli Tomlinson. I don't know. So fast forward, we got married a month after graduating, and then lived in Redding for a year, and then we moved up to Washington to be in camp ministry and loved it up there. But after a little while, Eli felt like he should get his master's, so we moved to Mankato, Minnesota, and Eli got his master's, but for me it was just a really lonely time being away from family and not having any friends. And I also nannied 3 brothers and then had Gavin, who is about 1.5 years old, so I didn't have very much adult interaction, just a lot of kiddo interaction. So those are just really lonely times and for a young mom. So I think that's where a lot of my heart for young moms and just moms in general comes from, because I think we can just get so nose to the grindstone that we really neglect taking care of ourselves
And so I just want to advocate for moms to do that, and for women too. It doesn't have to be moms, but to get together, to pursue community and encourage each other, and just know that you don't have to walk this alone. So after Mankato, we moved back to Washington, had Elsie. Then Eli actually joined with Peak 7, so that brought us to Prineville. And he did that for 2 summers working on the river, and then I said, please come home. So he now works with Parks and Rec. And then we had this one, and I feel like I'm jumping over all around my life map right now, but that's a little bit about myself, and I'm super excited to be part of this team and to get to know the ladies more, and I hope you join us.
Hi, I'm Cherie Davis. Many of you know that my husband and I manage the new Ochiko Christian Conference Center. We live here at the side of the old Mount Bachelor Academy, about 20 miles east of Prineville. Now, many of you have known each other for a long time, but we've only been here for 4 years, so I thought I'd give you a brief overview of my personal background. I was born and raised in Southern California and attended Biola University. John and I met at a Christian camp near San Diego. He grew up mostly in Sweet Home and came down from Northwest Christian College in Eugene, where he was attending, just to work at that camp for 1 summer, and ended up staying for about 3 decades. We've been married for 35 years and have lived and worked together in Christian camp ministry for over 30 of those years in California, Colorado, and now Oregon. We have 3 adult daughters. 2 currently live here at the camp and work in Prineville, and the eldest is in Virginia. She's a teacher of classical education at a private Lutheran school. Our twins were born when our first was just 16 months old, so it's been a wild ride, but a lot of fun, especially when we had 3 middle school girls at once. We homeschooled them all the way through, which seems like such a simple statement, but it was probably the hardest and most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. But I'm not sure that's really accurate, given that I've been through some pretty difficult things in the past 10 years. These experiences have shaped who I am today and developed a dependence on God that can only come when my perceived self-sufficiency was stripped away. This didn't come easy. God and I had some serious words during my mother's battle with cancer and after her death. I could handle her passing. She was ready to go. But the horrible pain that she experienced through hospice was difficult for me to let go of, even long after she was no longer suffering. And then just over 4 years ago, when we were living in Colorado, our house burned down. We were working on paying it off, and there was a lapse in insurance, so it wasn't covered at the time. All of a sudden, we had nothing and no way to provide for ourselves. You can imagine there were a lot of important lessons to learn in that experience. And they were some hard lessons, but they changed both John and I deeply. We've all been through difficulties in life, and often God uses those experiences to draw us closer to Him. I share my experiences because I believe that also helps us draw closer to one another. When we know a bit more about someone else's story, often we find points we can identify with and hopefully comfort one another. I love 2 Corinthians 1, 3, and 4. It says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction, with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." Isn't that beautiful? I look forward to hearing your stories and walking with you through whatever lies ahead, side by side with the God of all comfort.